This is County Executive Warren Evans, and this is Inside Wayne County.
Hello and welcome to Inside Wayne County. I'm your host, Lloyd Jackson, and today I'll take you inside the Wayne County Treasurer's Office, which is responsible for property tax collection as well as the receipt, custody, investment, and disbursement of all county funds. There are also other services the Treasurer's Office provides, and we'll talk about that as well on today's show. The Wayne County Treasurer is Ray Botovich, but I'm happy to have in his stead the Chief Deputy Treasurer, Dave Szymanski. Dave, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure to be here.
Before we get started, I always like to try to introduce the residents to the person in the department. So let's find out a little bit about who Dave Szymanski is. Kind of talk about where you grew up and your education and your background.
I grew up on the east side of Detroit, over near Outer Drive and Warren, and attended St. Clair Grade School, Detroit Aston Catholic Prep High School, and then went on to Notre Dame for college. Born and raised, as I said, in Detroit, a lifelong Detroiter, worked construction, demolition. I worked as a janitor, worked in my first job was actually on an assembly line down in the Russell Industrial Center. All great experiences. Ended up leaving Detroit for a short period of time when I was looking for a job as a teacher, and they were laying off teachers everywhere back in the 70s, but came back to Detroit to teach at Detroit Northeastern High School, and I was a swim coach for 1 year, and then a millage didn't pass, and I got laid off.
Wow.
And that's an experience that I think is pretty important to me, because when I got the layoff notice in the mail, 3 bills came with that, and I thought it was a cruel joke, but it's the reality of the situation that I faced at that time, trying to figure out how am I going to pay these bills when I don't have an income. And so, at least to that extent, I'm aware of what a lot of our citizens are going through as they struggle to pay their bills.
How did you get to Wayne County?
Well, I started off practicing law for 8 years. When I got laid off as a teacher, I became a lawyer. I went to law school at night and worked during the day. Then I practiced law for 8 years, represented the Detroit Police Officers Association, the Fraternal Order of Police, and a lot of other organizations. Ended up running for probate judge, and I was elected a probate judge, served in probate court for 20 years, so a lot of your viewers will remember me as the guy in the black robe who was up there. And really enjoyed the experience and helping people out. One of the things I did as a probate judge is I had this program where in the first year I was serving there, I had a young child in, and his grandmother was going to become his guardian. And I explained to him, you know, it's important for you to understand your grandmother doesn't have to raise you, but she's willing to do it because she loves you. And I said, I need you to help her out around the house. Will you do that? And the kid said, yeah. And I said, so when she tells you to brush your teeth, will you brush your teeth? And he says, yeah. I said, when she tells you to go to sleep, will you go to sleep? And he says, yeah. I said, when she tells you to pick up your toys, will you pick up your toys? Now this kid, without a second's hesitation, said, I don't have any toys. Wow. And it had that effect on me. So I went home and gathered up some gently used toys and took them over to the house. I kept the address there. And swore that I'd never be caught in that situation again. So from that point forward, I always had a little box of toys up there. And then I realized toys only do so much, so I started getting books, because I thought it's great for somebody to read books. And so I started gathering gently used books, and then got the Wayne County Probate Bar Association to donate some books, so I could give books to the kids who came through the court. And it was really cool, because I had some of the kids would write me a little book report that I didn't ask for. I had some kids send the book back saying, can I get another book?
Wow.
How do you say no to a kid like this? So we got the books out there. So I came to realize, and it wasn't until 18 years after I was serving that I realized I was the judge who threw the book at them. So I was a probate judge for 20 years, retired in 2010 as probate judge, and very fortunately Ray Botovich appointed me as his chief deputy. And I have been serving as chief deputy now for 4.5 years.
Now, you know, when people hear the Wayne County Treasurer's Office, a lot of times they think of foreclosure. It comes to their mind. But there's a process, though, before it gets to that point. Kind of talk about that process that happens before it even gets to the point of foreclosure.
It's a pretty lengthy process, because it's important for people to understand that the taxes that are assessed on the home are for services that are essential in government. Police and fire protection, schools for our children, collecting the trash, turning the streetlights on, and I think most people realize the streetlights are finally coming back on. And so if we don't collect those taxes, we can't provide those services. As sort of a backdrop there, if you don't pay your electric bill, they're going to turn off your electricity. If you don't pay your cable bill, you're not going to be watching ESPN tonight. If you don't pay your property taxes, we can't turn off services. I can't tell the police, don't go to that house because they didn't pay the taxes, but you can go to that one because they did pay. We can't do that. So the only way to stop the provision of services is to foreclose and take the house away, and that's provided by state law. Now, the process is, during the current year, like in 2015 now, your taxes are due to your local community, City of Detroit, Inkster, Highland Park, Ecorse, wherever it is. If you don't pay the taxes on time, in March of the following year, so March of 2016, they turn those taxes over to the treasurer that have not been collected, the delinquent taxes. We then are charged with collecting those taxes. As an aside, we instantly go to the financial markets and we borrow the money so that if, for example, Highland Park gives us $3 million in taxes they couldn't collect, we'll go and borrow the $3 million and give it to Highland Park so they can provide services. We then try to collect that money. In the first year that the taxes are delinquent, the taxpayer is assessed interest at 1% per month or 12% per year. If they don't pay them in the first year of delinquency, it goes into what's called forfeited status. And it's important to understand that there's forfeited and foreclosed, and they're two very different terms. Forfeited means we're going to file a document with the Register of Deeds letting the world know we're starting foreclosure on this property. At that point in time, pursuant to state law, the interest rate goes from 12% per year to 18% per year, and it's now retroactive to the first date of delinquency. So it becomes very expensive for somebody to not pay their taxes. At the end, and then during that year, we run title checks, we post on the property, we send letters by ordinary mail and certified mail, we publish in the newspaper. We're doing everything we can to let people know we're foreclosing on your property. And our ask of them, Treasurer Wojtowicz tells us all the time, please just come in and help us help you avoid foreclosure.
Because in his commercials, he says, listen, we don't want the house. We want you to stay in the house.
It's obviously the right thing to do from a humanitarian purpose is to keep people owning their property. It also makes good financial sense because if we don't collect those taxes, we got to get somebody in here who's going to pay the taxes or we can't provide government services. Both Wayne County and Detroit are having problems financially because of the significant amount of taxes that are uncollected and the significant decrease in taxes. And those are issues that Mike Duggan and Warren Evans are dealing with, and I think dealing with extremely well, although it's very difficult. So we then have to collect those taxes to fund those services. If somebody doesn't pay and they won't come in and work with us, then by state law we have to foreclose, take the property and offer it at auction. And that's where we are right now, is we have people registering for our auction. We've already had over 500 people register for the auction, and we just opened up registration yesterday. We have over 28,000 properties that will be in our September auction. In September, the opening, and it's devastating for somebody to lose their property, but it's important for people to understand we started foreclosure on 75,000 properties this year. Now we're down to 28,000. So that tells you we've helped over 40,000 people avoid foreclosure. Out of those 28,000, quite a number are vacant lots. Nobody lives there, there's nothing on them. Quite a number are vacant buildings. Detroit, our central city, has gone from a population of 1.8 million down to 700,000. So we in effect have housing stock for 1 million people who no longer exist. We need to deal with that. And there again, by foreclosing on it, we can get those properties and allow Detroit to attack blight.
When the auctions happen, what are the starting bids? Are the starting bids equivalent to the taxes owed on the property?
In September, the starting bid will be the sum total of the delinquent taxes. I'm encouraging anybody who's interested in being in participating in the auctions to participate in the September auction. A lot of people in the past have waited till October, figuring at that point in time, $500 is the opening bid on all properties. And in the past, people made real bargains there. It's getting more and more difficult because more and more people are interested in the auction. Our local communities are becoming more interested in taking property prior to letting it go in October for that sort of cut rate price. And therefore, if they're serious about buying a property, they should participate in September. It's going to be a higher opening bid, but the property you're interested in might well not be there come October.
What about the foreclosures? You keep in tune with the foreclosures in the county, so they go up sometimes, sometimes they go down depending on the economy. How is it stand right now? Are you seeing more foreclosures now or less foreclosures?
I really want to see them go down.
I know.
During my time with the Treasurer's Office, we haven't seen them go down. We've seen them just go up because what happened is originally we believed we couldn't really process all of the properties that were eligible for foreclosure. So we had sort of an artificially low number, and that's ramped up year by year so that when I came in, we were foreclosing on about 22,000 properties, and now we're foreclosing on 75,000 properties. Obviously a tremendous increase. The staff at the Wayne County Treasurer's Office is second to none in the way they handle the public, treat them with courtesy, dignity, and respect. But it's overwhelming what we're dealing with. I foresee next year being very similar to this year, and then the following year, I think we will finally see a decline in the numbers.
Are there also times when the Treasurer's Office gives some type of a break on like the interest rates and those kinds of things? You invite them to come in and pay and give them a break on the interest rates?
Since I came into the office, Treasurer Vojtovich said, Dave, we got to do something about this 18% interest rate because it really is ridiculous. So for several years, I've been working with the treasurers across the state to try and come up with a plan to let us cut that interest rate on owner-occupied properties. I really wanted to do it on all, but I figured I could get owner-occupied. Mm-hmm. Mike Duggan came into office and told his people, make this happen. Mayor Duggan and I actually went together to the House of Representatives and testified before a panel there. We got this legislation that allows us to reduce interest rate from 18% down to 6%. Now, those people who are in foreclosure this year, they've missed the window of opportunity. Yes. Mm-hmm. But those people are going to be facing foreclosure next year. We need them to get in as quickly as they can. Another real important reason I need people who are facing foreclosure next year or haven't yet been foreclosed to come in and see us is there's a fabulous program called Step Forward. And what I'm hearing is it'll probably be terminated this November. That allows us to use federal funds to pay people's delinquent taxes on their owner-occupied residential property. There are certain restrictions that apply. Mm-hmm. They apply for that program at stepforwardmichigan.org. But if they wait until November to apply, the program may be gone. The process of application is rather lengthy. They have to own their property pursuant to a deed recorded with the land contract. They must live in the property, and they must have sufficient income going forward that they can pay the taxes in the future if the government pays off their delinquent taxes. But it's an interest-free loan they get, okay. And if they continue to live in the property for 5 years, the loan is forgiven. So it's an incredible program. What happened is 4 years ago, I took a look at the law, and I was trying to figure out how can we get that money to help people pay their taxes? And I called 3 other states, mm-hmm. And they said, you'll never do it. We've been trying for a couple of years to do this. Well, I'm a lawyer, so I found a loophole. And we drove a bus through it. Okay. We've now accessed over $50 million in these funds to help over 5,000 families save their home. It will give them up to $30,000 to pay off their delinquent taxes. So the real message is if you think you need help from the treasurer, don't wait. Don't put it on your calendar for next week, next month, or next year. Come on down, because the earlier you come down, the better you are. So getting back to the point, we did have that legislation that allows us to reduce interest rate from 18% to 6%. Mm-hmm. It's awesome legislation because it allows us to reduce the interest rate retroactively. So if you've got 3 years of interest at 18% and we can reduce that to 6%, it creates genuine savings.
You get more people coming in, I'm sure, taking advantage of that.
We have thousands and thousands of people who are on these plans now. Now, once they get on the plan, they make a down payment of 10% of their delinquent taxes. They then pay 3% of their delinquent taxes monthly. Okay. It'll take them about 3.5 to 4 years to get it paid off. During that time, they have to pay their current taxes on time. And so that'd be the local cities, whether it's Livonia, Canton Township, Belleville. Mm-hmm. They have to pay those on time. They have to maintain what's called a PRE. That's a principal residence exemption. Okay. If you own and live in your home, the government said you should pay less in taxes than somebody else. And so the PRE indicates that you live in the home and you own it, and then it reduces your taxes. So you got to have that PRE.
Is there a tax exempt program?
There's a tax exempt program, and that comes through your local community.
Okay.
Wayne County doesn't administer it, the Wayne County Treasurer's Office doesn't administer it, but your local community does, and every community is required to have what's called a poverty exemption program. That means that if they're at or below the poverty line, and some communities actually allow a little bit more than the poverty line, they can waive your taxes for the current year.
Okay.
So it'll do nothing for the delinquent taxes, but it can help to create any future taxes, to prevent any future taxes from coming over. So they apply for that at their local assessor's office. In Detroit, it'd be the 8th floor of the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. And very important to get in. A lot of people, what they do is they wait until the wolf is at the door. And unfortunately, we're like the wolf.
Oh, yeah.
But if in their first year of delinquency they would have accessed that program, they wouldn't be in a situation of facing foreclosure. But a lot of people wait, and then when they get to foreclosure, they can get that poverty exemption for the current year, but they don't get it for the past years. We've kicked around, and we're talking to legislation now about trying to get some retroactivity, but nobody can count on that happening. So if they want to do the poverty exemption, they should get in as soon as they can and apply for that.
You know, there are residents who have properties around their homes, maybe next door, across the street. Those homes may have been foreclosed. Is the best way for them to get those properties is to be part of the auction?
Absolutely. And if they want to be part of the auction, they can go to our website and find out what properties are available. They'll find out what the prices are. They'll go to WayneCountyTreasurerMI.com, and that's our auction website. That's where they can register, pay their deposit, and get all set up. Look at the properties and figure out, you know, do I want to bid on that property next door to me? If they have any questions, they can always send us an email to wctauction@waynecounty.com. And we try to, in fact, just had a meeting to try and set up so we can make sure that our responses to those emails are timely. They have to be registered for this auction by September 10. That's the date. By September 10th, they must be registered and have the deposit paid in order to participate in the auction.
I'm glad you're here on the show because we're getting this information out. How often do you go out and touch the communities and the different communities in Wayne County to give them this information so they know that this is available?
We go out daily. You know, not to every community every day, but we're in the communities all the time. Eric Sabri, our Deputy of Land Management, Felicia Tyler. We've got so many members of our staff who go to community groups. In the month of February, we do Taxpayer Assistance Saturdays where we go to different locations of Wake County Community College District. I love going to churches. I'm a Christian, unabashedly so.
Okay.
But I'll go to synagogues, I'll go to mosques, I'll go anywhere to spread the word about the taxes. And because it's just that important that we help people save their homes.
There is a hardship program as well. So if people are having a hardship, talk about how that works in relationship to paying those taxes on time.
The hardship program, when you come into foreclosure, we'll be foreclosing basically on 2 years of taxes. So for example, this year, in 2015, we're foreclosing on the 2012 taxes. 2013 taxes and 2014 taxes might also be due.
Okay.
On the hardship program, if a person shows that they own and live in the home as their primary residence, we can just give them another year to pay their taxes. And that extends the time. Now those people, we want to get them into that interest reduction stipulated payment agreement where we're going to reduce the interest from 18% down to 6%, and that creates a relatively affordable payment schedule. Most of the payments on a monthly basis are $150 to $250. Now, and if somebody says to me, wow, that's pretty high, I say, try and find a place you can rent for $250 a month. You're not going to find it.
No.
So it tends to be the best deal in town. A lot of times there are feelings that assessments in the past were too high. We can't change the assessment, but through this program we're helping people pay off their delinquency, and these assessments have come down now to where they're more in the realm of reality, and so hopefully they can keep up on their taxes at that point in time.
Before I let you go, you know, people have heard a lot recently about the DTRF fund, the Delinquent Tax Revolving Fund. Explain what that is in our last minute or so.
Delinquent Tax Revolving Fund is when we get the taxes over from the local communities and we go to Wall Street and we borrow the money. This year we borrowed about $188 million. We give those back to the communities back to the taxing authorities. It goes to the zoo, the arts, the schools, and it helps them fund their ongoing operations. Then for 2 years, we try to collect those delinquent taxes, and anything we collect goes to paying back those notes. If there's money we cannot collect at the end of the cycle, we go back to the local community and say, you've got to pay us back. So for example, we might have a community, let's say Crawfordsville, just to make one up, because there's no such Crawfordsville in Wayne County. So let's say Crawfordsville gives us $10 million. We go out and over so we borrow the $10 million and give it to them. Over the next 2 years, let's say we only collect $8 million. We then give them an IOU for the $2 million. Now, we don't have them write us a check for the $2 million, but when they get their distribution from the next year's borrowing, we might be borrowing $12 million, and we'll short them the $2 million they owe us. So we're always made whole, and the communities always have money to fund their ongoing operations.
Is there money kind of left over in the treasurer's?
There is what we call retained earnings often remaining, and those earnings are made by statute available to Wayne County, which has been critical for the continued operation of Wayne County. Warren Evans is trying to get this deficit under control, and certainly the money that comes from the Delinquent Tax Revolving Fund is assisting him in that effort.
Dave, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Stay tuned for upcoming shows as we take you inside Wayne County departments and introduce you to the people in charge and the many services they provide. It's all with a goal to keep you up to date on everything going on inside Wayne County. I'm Lloyd Jackson. See you next time.